Here we are, the final installment in the series where we've been uncovering the truth and dispelling some myths behind the Snake Crane Wing Chun style. Along the way, we've held interviews, dismantled snake oil narratives, and most importantly, helped countless people and Wing Chun practitioners avoid being misled, as well as wasting resources and valuable years of training time. By any measure, this series has been a resounding success. Now to the central issue, the secret notes. According to their promoters, these are the oldest Wing Chun documents in existence. An assassin's manual coded for the secret society members, they say. Proof held therein of Wing Chun's secret internal training methods. And apparently the most comprehensive notes from any lineage out there, proving that the Snake Crane Wing Chun system is indeed the progenitor of them all. And of course, only one man supposedly has the entire set and truly understands their deep meaning. I've discussed and obtained the copies of these secret notes from Lord Sifu's disciples and family members, not to mention from Wayne Young himself, possibly 6 years ago, where he sat down with me for a few days and showed me sections of the notes while explaining many of the details therein. It wasn't until my recent visit to the mainland where I met Mr. Tam, and he was good enough to let me have a look at Wayne's entire set of the notes and realized that in fact they were no different than any of the others, despite what he had been saying. As part of my investigations, and because of the supposed connection between the two lineages, I cross-referenced the Snake Crane Wing Chun notes with those of the Yuen San lineage. Yuen San's great-granddaughter, a remarkably generous woman, entrusted me with her set of the notes and allowed me to keep them. This was especially meaningful to me as I'd spent some time and got instruction from her father before he passed. He was a fantastic martial artist and person, and it's just something that I deeply value. When going through the process of comparing these notes with each other and to ensure objectivity, I worked alongside practitioners and researchers who are familiar both with Yuen San lineage and the Snake Crane Wing Chun lineage, its notes, its practitioners, and its history. One of them, a trusted translator, has assisted me and many others in this field. But given Wayne's claims that the Snake Crane Wing Chun notes were written in some ancient Chinese or even coded, I had to go further. To that end, I enlisted the help of a professor from Shanghai University, a sinologist who is an experienced martial arts practitioner and Sifu in his own right, to help me decipher and translate and compare the two manuals with each other. What is important to remember is that the professor is incredibly experienced and has carried out this kind of work across hundreds of manuals and multiple Chinese martial arts. Most importantly, he doesn't have a vested interest other than to do the work. And what we uncovered delivers a definitive end to the claims pushed by Wayne, Snake Yo, and people within that circle. There have been reported assertions about the origins of Snake Crane Wing Chun, namely that it was an assassin's martial art with deep secret society connections. The only group pushing this narrative insists that these so-called secret notes prove this claim. But when we actually examine the material, the story collapses.
It says here, do not. Don't become secret society person. Don't become a criminal. Be kind, be nice, have martial virtue. Spread it, like be honest, train yourself. Why would they do that? No. Okay. I have secret society books, they're published. All the triad books, manuals, and Green Gang and Red Gang, all kind of secret society. None of start that. They have religious leaders and the founder of society. The book starts like, genealogy.
The next part of the manual is filled with a familiar Taoist philosophy, the same kind of material you'd find across countless traditional martial arts manuals.
那太极内功24是武士中道保一节 something is a different person wrote this completely different handwriting No. This is the latest it could have been written is 20s, 1920s, 1930s. The earliest it can go any time in the 19th century probably, because of the language. Yeah. No, this is different. It's like 30s, maybe earliest 30s. No, early 30s. And the guy was knew how to draw. Like there's some proportions evident, right? The definite proportions. Forget about it. Probably 50s or 40s. This was published, a copy from published book, really well copied, right? But somebody who can draw. That's also doable. 30s is like bottom plank.
But not 1800s, no.
Forget about it. He didn't know how to draw like that.
The hairstyle and
there's no way. They didn't do that. They
Yeah,
didn't do that. They didn't know that. This is modern.
As we went through the notes, there's the typical sayings and ideas of Wing Chun in this particular style, single man sets, two man sets, and lists of techniques. What followed that was another interesting section of the book, which was the poem of the Jiang Hu. This seemed quite out of place considering what was written on the front page. Now, yes, this could be interpreted as a code phrase used between secret society members where one says one phrase and the other says another in order to identify themselves. So whoever wrote this has to reconcile that. Okay.
Maybe the guy who had copied this manual was a member, right? So maybe the guy there's no way this person wrote the manual, right? Himself, like authored the manual, right? I don't think so. But
the interesting part of this section is that it completely contradicts that on the first page. So what does this tell us? Either that this was a later edition or that there may indeed be some kind of tenuous connection to secret societies. But even then, the obvious question is, what kind of secret society? For what purpose? There were many different kinds, and this could be just a secret club where people were training outside of the public eye for whatever reason, and whoever comes in and joins essentially is part of a brotherhood. They give each other a bow and shake hands and say, don't tell anybody we've trained outside of the doors of the Kung. Does that mean that they were part of the triad or involved in anti-government activities? The evidence is inconclusive at best and wishful thinking at worst. Now comes perhaps the boldest of all the claims made, and that is the Snake Crane Wing Chun notes predate the Yuen San ones and therefore are proof of this style being the progenitor of all the three-form Wing Chun styles out there.
This is old. Comparison to that one, just the style.
Really?
Oh, it's old. It's Qin Dynasty, definitely. Just the language is written.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Just simple as that. Huh?
Yeah, this is written in classical Chinese. That is more like classical mixed with vernacular, like a modern, not the modern, but it's a relatively contemporary person wrote. Yeah. Instead of hua, qi character is used, but the meaning is the same. And it is called xiao chang gui, and this is called Xiao Chenggui, the two names. Interesting. The first name is the same, and description is about the same too. It's the same. More or less. It's like different, written differently. This is earlier. It's elaborated on this. So this manual was written before 1891.
This one?
Don't know. Yeah. So probably this is a compilation. This is 100% compilation. This is as Yuan Qishan. He transmitted that mail. Whether he wrote it himself, who knows?
Yeah. You see, this is where the testimony of a genuine expert really matters. The professor, who has spent decades analysing hundreds of martial arts materials across many systems, lays out a very fundamental rule. The earlier the manual, the simpler it is, not the other way around. Later generations inevitably add more forms, more techniques, more philosophy, and more things like Neigong. Sometimes they borrow and sometimes they outright plagiarize, but the trajectory is always the same and in one direction, from sparse to elaborate. So the rule of thumb is this: concise manuals are old and sprawling, eclectic manuals are modern. Manuals are lost over time and all the time, but the information within them is rarely lost. In fact, it accumulates over the years layer by layer. And when we apply this rule to Snake Crane Wing Chun, the conclusion is inescapable. These notes are not some primal source for Yuen Wing Chun. They are clearly a later composite stitched together from multiple influences and dressed up in a myth to masquerade as something ancient. As with all research, some theories stand firmer than others, and I may have made some errors of my own along the way. However, I welcome critique, and that's the nature of honest inquiry. But don't let nitpicking distract you from the larger picture, because the central points are beyond dispute. Snake Crane Wing Chun is indeed a jewel in its own right. However, it has nothing to do with the assassination of government officials and is a civilian self-defense system the same as the other Wing Chun styles. The claims of it being an internal system are false. The museum research propping up its narrative is false. Wayne's research being agreed upon and having the full weight of the Chinese government to support it, a fantasy. Snake Crane's secret notes being the oldest Wing Chun documents in existence, another falsehood. Law Sifu being mentally compromised is a despicable lie spread by Wayne Yung. Snake Crane Wing Chun is not the progenitor of all Wing Chun styles with three forms. Yuen Wing Chun is not an offshoot of Snake Crane Wing Chun. In fact, it seems the other way around. Wayne Yung was simply one of Law Sifu's many disciples, not the head of the lineage, nor given any authorization to speak on behalf of Snake Crane Wing Chun as a whole. So when you or anyone you know encounters these self-styled researchers pushing their narrative for their nefarious purposes, you'll already have the evidence to hand. I'll even timestamp the clips so you can cut through all the smoke. What happens next? Well, likely nothing of substance. This group will bide their time, hoping people will forget or wait for a fresh wave of new people ready to mislead. Our task as a community, I feel, is that this information and the truth is available to anyone else before they get caught in this spider's web of deceit and lies. I expect the supporters of this group to double down. Well, that's cognitive dissonance for you. They will be unable to substantiate any of the claims pushed by these researchers, but they'll be unwilling to let go because of ego or investment of time into this group, or just because they're happy where they are, and who am I to say otherwise? It's up to them. They can choose to live in their fantasy. As for the snake oil salesman, over a year ago I laid out the plan already, that he would stick with Wayne for as long as it serves him and suits his narrative. He'll attempt to go over Wayne's head and meet and do some kind of collaboration with somebody more skilled and more experienced in Law Sifu systems, such as Rick Wong. He'll ensure that one of his guys will take the by-sea with Wayne, and this way he can secure the notes. He'll repeat and parrot all the things that Wayne tells him, absent any kind of due diligence with the research. And when he finally gets the notes and realizes that they're not all that they're hyped up to be, he'll either stage an exit, not unlike the Black Flag debacle, or he'll just quietly drift away and separate himself from Snake Crane Wing Chun. Don't be surprised when the inevitable split happens. that Snakeo will insist he understood the notes and the internal mechanics of Snake Crane Wing Chun better than Wayne or even Lord Sifu does. This is just Snakeo being Snakeo. In the end, the promised stream of students and money will dry up and Wayne will be left worse off than he was before, isolated and clinging to a narrative that everybody knows is hollow. I don't say this with any joy in my heart because at one point I quite liked Wayne. We got on and I had a good time with him last time we met. However, he chose to make a deal with the devil and now he must live with the consequences. As long as those consequences don't affect the unsuspecting, it is what it is. So, we're at the end and let me close with a thanks. A sincere thanks to all those who stuck with me throughout this whole series. Your support and your questions and your willingness to engage and challenge falsehoods kept this little project alive. If this series and the engagement and the responses I got from it has proven anything, is that Snake Crane Wing Chun, the notes, the hype, none of that matters. Legends fade, names are forgotten, but real Kung Fu, honesty and practice, they live on. Forget the myths, ignore the distractions, just train super hard with integrity and sincerity and you inherit the lineage that no one can steal. And that's the legacy that truly endures.